Let's have some fun with patchwork squares. This is super simple, super fun, and is very beginner friendly. So if you have a charm pack or just some fabric squares that are sitting in your fabric stash, don't hesitate to pull out a series. Actually, you're going to need 16 to be specific, because we're going to make a classic 16 patch quilt block. So once you have 16 squares, we're just going to start laying them out in rows of 4. So this is up to you how you want to line them up and which colors you want to have going next to one another. This is the fun of patchwork, is having fun with the layout. So this is a part that I encourage you to play with and show off your creativity. So I'm just going to quickly lay out my blocks. So once you have 4 rows of 4 blocks, then what you can do is start placing them right sides together. Once you have them placed right sides together, we're going to stitch a 1/4 inch down this right side. So let's take that to the machine and do just that. Once you're at the machine, what we're going to do is start by lowering our needle, and we're going to stitch a 1/4 inch seam down this right edge. So lower your presser foot and then just stitch away. Once you've got one done, you can continue feeding your patchwork squares. So I just took the next set from that first row, and I'm going to place those right sides together and stitch a 1/4 inch down this seam. And I will keep doing that until I have all of my pairs stitched together. So this is the next set from row 2. I'm just going to put them right sides together, and I'll keep doing this, and I'll just keep chain piecing them without breaking my threads in between, and that will make efficient work of piecing all of these blocks together, and will also save me on thread. All right, now I'm just going to cut each of those apart. So before taking it to the pressing mat, what I'm going to do, just to make efficient work of piecing these together, this is the patchworks from my row 1, and what I'm going to do is automatically, before pressing anything, I'm going to start joining the center seams together. So just take your 2 sets of blocks, and what I'm going to do is place them right sides together. And once again, I'm going to stitch a 1/4 inch seam down this right edge, effectively joining all 4 of those individual blocks in that first row. And I'll keep doing that until they're all 4 rows are pieced together. So that's row 4, this is row 3, here is row 2, row 2 and row 1. Let's go to the pressing mat. When it comes time to pressing the seams in your cake stand patchwork blocks, what you want to do is pay attention to the pressing instructions in the pattern, because they're very specific so that your seams will nest, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. But first, what we're going to do is start by pressing all the seams in row 1 to the right. So what I like to do is set my seams, which is just laying my hot iron on top of that seam before finger pressing to, in this case, the right. And then I'll bring my iron back over to set that seam in place. And I'll keep doing that, continuing to set my seams, finger press, and press to the right to complete that first row. And so there is row 1. Row 2, we're actually going to press to the left. And so I've just rotated my patchwork to make sure that I am pressing everything to the left. But the process is the same. I still set my seam, I finger press, and then I bring my hot iron to lock that in place. All right, and so there is row 2. I will continue pressing the other 2 rows, and then I'll circle back and show you how we start joining them together. Once you have your rows pressed, so here's row 1, here's row 2. Row 1 I've pressed to the right, and row 2 I've pressed to the left. And what that means is that when you place them right sides together, you'll be able to lock your seams in. So you'll notice that one seam is going that way and the top seam is going this way. And so what that means is that you can get your seams right up to one another, and that will have them come together really, really nicely. So they won't overlap, they won't be too far apart, but they'll be butted up nicely, so you'll have really nice points. And so once you're happy with the layout and you've got them nice and butted up next to one another, what I like to do is just take a pin and pop it right through that seam to make sure that things don't shift on me. And I'll work one way and lock that seam in and pop a pin in to secure it. And then I'll work the other way to just make sure that everything is lining up nicely. Once you have your rows pinned together, we can take it back to the sewing machine and stitch it in place. We're back at the machine, and I always start by lowering my needle and then bring my patchwork up to my needle, and away we go. Just like we chain pieced our blocks together, we can also chain piece our rows together. With our rows pieced together, now we can take it back to the pressing mat. When pressing your rows for the cake stand patchwork blocks, it's the same process as I showed you for when we're pressing our individual blocks together. You first want to set your seam, and then I like to first finger press just to make sure that everything is going in the right direction before I bring my hot iron to lock that seam into place. And I'm just going to work my way gently over it. And because we've nested our seams, you'll notice that we have a really beautiful alignment in all of our corners. So they're not separated, they're not overlapping, but they're just butted up really, really nicely, which is a combination of using the nested seams and popping a pin in just to make sure that things don't shift on us when we're at the sewing machine. So I'll repeat that step with the second set of rows. Once you have the row 1 and row 2 combined and your row 3 and row 4 combined, now we can join the unit together. And it's the same process that we've been doing all along. We're going to place them right sides together, nest our seams where our seams join, and then take it back to the sewing machine to stitch a 1/4 inch seam down the center seam. So we're back at the sewing machine, and we're going to join that center seam that connects row 1 and 2 with row 3 and 4. All right, there, our block is entirely joined together. Let's go give it one final press. So here we are back at the pressing mat to give our last to set our last seam in the patchwork block for the cake stand quilt. And once again, I like to finger press first before bringing my hot iron into place to lock that seam down. And there you have the completed 16 patch quilt block for the cake stand quilt pattern. This is the foundation block to which you're going to add in your next layer of needle turn applique or raw edge applique, however you wish to tackle this one. But the fun is just stitching up different squares together and seeing the different color combinations that you can come up with. This is a fantastic scrap buster. I'm sure there's lots of scraps hanging out in your fabric stash. So there is the classic 16 patch patchwork block. Have fun with this one!